What the hell? Why are you hiding in my painting stuff? So you want to learn how I do all this mini painting YouTube stuff. And I will show you. I am certainly not an expert when it comes to YouTube, as you can see on my channel numbers. But I have been doing content for a really, really long time now. And I enjoy doing content. It is one of my favorite hobbies next to miniature painting and hunting. And I will teach you everything I know about how to film your miniatures, how to film yourself, what settings you need in your cameras, how you can fix up your audio, and everything else I know about creating content and creating content for YouTube about miniature painting. As you may have noticed in the last few weeks, there was a bit less content than usual, and this is for a lot of reasons. First of all, a lot of my life is changing right now. I have an amazing job that takes a lot of time and I really enjoy doing. And I also am working on a lot of projects right now. You may see some on my desk, but I'm working on a lot of different projects at once and I really enjoy doing them. So it may take some more time to create content for you guys. Also, I'm switching from Final Cut to Premiere Pro. And this also takes some time to convert the assets and making new assets for the videos. Well, let's start out with all the rigging and lighting. I have a lot of lights that I use for my miniature painting. I have a lot of lights that are illuminating me while I'm recording myself. And I use some of those lights when I actually record and photograph my miniatures. These are the three lights that I use on my desk. The Zemplix lights are made for sewing or other crafty stuff, and the Falcon Eyes is, I think, for making movies or something like this. And I have two more lights that are battery based. And to mount my camera, my Falcon Eyes and my big LED light, I kind of misused some mounts that are made for the wall, and I made basically ceiling mounts from them. And of course I have these stupid stands that everybody uses, and these are my two battery powered lights. They are pretty cheap, but they do the trick. They work, and that's everything I need. The Zemplix lights are actually quite versatile, and I use them for video recording. I put them on the side, so I light up my working place a bit more. And when I'm streaming, I use them to light up my background, so you could actually see me in front of the green screen. They have three color options, and that's a really important thing I'm going to talk about later. I always use 5600 Kelvin lights. Oh, and I also have a bigger kind of softbox and another stand for the huge LED light, so I could take it and position it everywhere in the room. And this is basically the full studio setup. I have my two battery powered lights. One is picking up my side, so I stand out a bit from the background when I'm filming. And I got the huge light that's actually illuminating everything in the room. And that is the first setting I want to give you to work with. It's 5600 Kelvin. If you use lights, it's always a good idea to put all of them in 5600 Kelvin. This has to do with the light temperature, and the light temperature coming from outside, meaning it is close to daylight. Next thing we should talk about is camera or cameras, and of course all the settings and lenses and stuff that I'm using to record myself and my miniatures. And this is the first camera that I use. It's a Sony ZV-E10, and it's kinda grown into a monstrosity. I have this tripod, and because I have these nice even floors, I put my tripod on this rolly thingy so I can move my camera around. I have a few extra lenses that I mainly use for photography, and of course I added a lot of stuff to this little tripod. First of all, there's my iPad, which shows my scripts. I have my Yeti microphone that goes directly into my camera, so all my talking head and voiceover stuff kind of sounds the same. And of course I have a preview monitor, and you really have to get used to not looking into the preview monitor. For one simple reason, it looks kind of strange. You need to train yourself to look into the lens and this makes for a much more interesting and compelling video. And of course I could clean up this tripod and set things to a more practical order, but this kind of grew into a setup that is pretty versatile, and I could take things from here, put them to another place, take off the cam, take off the monitor, turn the monitor around, use the camera in freehand mode. It has a lot of possibility for me to use it, so it kind of grew into this monstrosity of a setup, and I kind of like it. You could all do this with just one camera. You just need one cam, and it doesn't have to be a really expensive one. Since I'm streaming from time to time and I want to record some B-roll, I use two cameras, but you don't have to. Everything works fine with just one cam. My second cam is a Panasonic Lumix GH5 Mark II, and I have two different lenses on there, one for streaming and one for recording. And as you can see here, I have this huge monitor that I use for preview, and I kind of use the second monitor on the cam for checking my settings, which is kind of neat to have around. So let's talk about camera settings. There are a few camera settings that are different between the US, Europe and other parts of the world, and I'm going to talk about them, explain them to you. I want to show you the most used features in my camera and settings I make that let me get to be lazy, so I don't have to do all the color mumbo jumbo and stuff. So first off, I try to avoid any kind of automatic features on my camera, especially for this one, and that's the aperture. Aperture quite open, around 4 to 5.6 is what I use for my talking head, and this gives me exactly what you see here. It's called bokeh or whatever you want to call it, and it's basically how sharp or unsharp your background is. The next setting is ISO or ISO, and this basically determines how much the light that is going into your camera is amplified. And amplifying the light that goes into your cam makes it look grainy. So try to put it, first of all, not in auto mode, and second of all, try to use as low ISO as possible. Highest amount I use is 800. And the next setting is actually two settings combined, meaning it's frames and shutter, both of them depending on your local electricity. But why is that? Well, in Europe we mostly use 50 Hz, and this means our lights are flickering at 50 Hz. Other countries are using 60 Hz, though the lights are flickering at 60 Hz, meaning 50 or 60 times per second. So we use the 180 degrees shutter rule, which means 25 frames equal 1/50th of shutter and 30 1/60th of shutter. And this avoids the so-called rolling shutter, which would be a flickering in your recording. And we double the amount of shutter to the frames, because if you record 25 frames with a shutter of 25, the movement would look quite strange. Same goes for 30 frames. And don't be stressed out about YouTube and stuff. You can produce your video in 25 frames and upload it to YouTube, no problem. So let's talk about zebras. That was the last thing you saw on my camera, those nice stripes. And why am I using zebra and how am I using zebra? Well, zebra shows when you're overexposing your image, and you could go for 100% zebra and just go for the stuff you see in your scene. But what I basically do is I go for 90% zebra, so when I'm close to overexposure and these lines show up on my card here, that actually means I have perfect exposure for my shot. After setting up my frames and my shutter and my ISO and my aperture, it's basically time to set up my white balance. And this is essential if I set up my lights correctly. And there may be some lights coming from outside. This will mix with all the lights I set up in my studio, so I always take a custom white balance. This is integrated in every cam and you should easily be able to do it. And this helps me with the next thing, and that is color grading. I know a lot of movie freaks and a lot of good YouTubers shoot in S-Log or V-Log or whatever it is all called, and they do a lot of color grading for their shots. And that is fine. If you want to do that, please do that, but I am quite lazy. So my recording software uses Rec 709, so I basically set up all my cameras to Rec 709. And that is the recording standard for broadcasting. If I want to do some color correction myself, I put the camera in flat or neutral mode, and for bigger projects I too shoot an S-Log and put a LUT or a LUT over it or do my own color grading. But that is a lot of work and it's kind of unnecessary. If you use Rec 709 in your cutting and in export and in recording, you should have quite good colors when you did all the white balancing and stuff. So let's check out the settings on my cam. You can see here 1/50th shutter. I record in 25 frames. This shot is recorded in an aperture of 4. And an aperture of 4 to 5.6 is what I usually use. Of course, my ISO is as low as possible. I use my 25 frames and my shutter of 1/50. Of course, I've did a custom white balance and I mostly use manual focus. My settings for mini painting are a bit different. I use a much higher aperture from 10 to 11 because I want the sharpness to be all around the miniature. You need to see every part of it. Of course, I keep my ISO as low as possible, and the only thing is I always and only use manual focus. And the thing I don't want to miss is my remotes for my cameras, because getting a focus while pushing buttons on the cams is quite nerve-wracking and doesn't work that well, and I really want to keep autofocus off my recordings. All my recordings are made in 4K and then actually cut in 1080p and sized down. This gives me, especially for mini painting, the extra amount of zoom I need without losing any quality, and this is really important. And since my setup here for miniature photography was recorded with an iPhone, you could actually see the rolling shutter just a second ago on the red background. My setup for miniature photography and videography are quite easy, and it's just black felt on my desk with a lazy Susan. And in the end, it all comes together in my editing space, which is also the space I use for my home office. Well, here I'm working on a Mac because I'm used to working on Macs from all the agency work that I did. I have my iPad on the side, which I use as a second monitor sometimes, and all the cutting work is actually done with my Loop Deck, which is a tool, a hardware tool that I don't want to miss out on. I freaking love that thing. It's so versatile and it takes away all the guesswork out of my video editing. I also have my microphone here and I do all my voiceovers in this room. I don't know how many thousand years ago I started cutting videos with Windows Movie Maker, and then I switched to Mac and I used iMovie, and then since it was my work I switched to Final Cut Pro and Motion. Now since I'm using it at work I'm using Premiere Pro, and there's stuff for every software that I love and that I hate, and what works for me and what doesn't, but I'm quite fine with using Premiere Pro now. If you're looking for a free solution, there's always DaVinci Resolve, which is free in a basic version and quite a good software solution. Of course, audio is an important part of the video, so I'm going to show you where I get my music, how I record my voiceovers, and how I edit my audio to sound a bit better than it just coming straight from the camera or the microphone. 99% of the music that I use now comes from Epidemic Sound. I used another source when I started out, but in this case Epidemic Sound is the freaking GOAT. I use it for my streams, I use it for all of my videos, and the best thing is they automatically check if you have a license when they do copyright claims on YouTube, so you don't get any copyright strikes when you have a license. And a lot of this music sounds like real music and not like stock music for companies, and this is what I really love about Epidemic Sound. Yes, I really need to take my time and check out the new functionalities in Premiere Pro that are using a lot of AI and other tools to soup up your audio, really make your voice pop. But for now, I'm using Auphonic. Auphonic is free and I used it as soon as it came out. It was a beta test and now it's a really fully functioning software. I have my settings in there and it just makes my audio so much better. And 2 hours per month are actually free to use. And if you want to use it, just register and copy my settings that you see on screen here. It works really, really well. So I used to get music from Envato Elements, but this is really stocky sounding music, so I switched to Epidemic Sound. But what I still get from Envato Elements is a lot of animations for my videos, transitions for every kind of software. And it's quite cheap actually, if you use it a lot, like me. And as I said, the music is not that good, but the stock videos are fine. And the transition packs and all the animations that you can get are absolutely fine to use. So this is a little disclaimer. A lot of this gear is expensive, and there's gear that is actually much more affordable that you can get. And if you join the Discord, me and other people there will gladly help you out finding the right gear for what you want to do. Another part of this disclaimer should be that I've been doing content for a really long time now, way over 10 years. And I had the luxury to start my journey as a content creator in a big company here in Germany. And I'm now working for a company that is doing content or needs to have content worldwide available. So I'm doing content in multiple languages and I get to play with a lot of cool gear, and I got to acquire some cool gear for myself over the time. This doesn't mean you need all this expensive gear to make cool videos. You can start out with your iPhone, with your old DSLR, what you have on hand. So first of all, I want to thank my patrons, those who've supported me, and of course those who are supporting me right now. This means a lot to me. If you want to help me out on my journey, please like, comment, subscribe. You know all these buttons on YouTube that support my channel and help me out. For now, I really hope you enjoyed this video and could take some helpful hints from it. And I really hope to see you soon here again on The Bear and the Brush. Bye guys.